So, hey y'all, we're excited. Look, we're gonna jump right into this because I got like heat, right? That's why I heard you got heat to show for y'all today. We got our sisters here. Look, we got Reverend Danielle Ayers from Friendship West Baptist Church. We got Reverend Dr. Ayers Session, co-pastor of the Gathering. We got Reverend Camilla Hall Sharp, co-pastor of the Gathering. We got Reverend Fia Kennedy, pastor of Wesley Chapel AME Church. And we have none other than my sis, my homie, all the way from Birmingham, Alabama, Miss Dewana Thompson, the creator of Woke Vote, one of the great voting engines and voting machines in our country. So I'm not going to hold this up. We're going to get started with a quick conversation. And first, we're going to bring in Reverend Danielle Ayers. She is the Justice Minister at the Friendship West Baptist Church here in Dallas, Texas. And look, that is not a simple job. If you know, Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes is known around the country as the drum major for justice. But if you want to know, while he's out there beating the drum, who's making sure that the people are in line and the work is getting done and the community is getting active and the church is staying connected and the work is making it happen. It is this woman right here, Reverend Danielle Ayers. She has literally wrote the book on what it means to be a justice minister and to actually connect with the congregation and move to civic action. And so she's going to talk to us today about what does it look like? What does it look like to get your church connected with the community and moving in civic engagement for this voting period? So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to throw it to Reverend Danielle Ayers. Introduce yourself to the people and then just, let's go.
Sure. Thank you so much for this opportunity. As you've already said, Reverend Danielle Ayers at Friendship West. And I think the first thing I would want to say, particularly talking to Black pastors and Black congregations, understanding that there's no disconnect from congregation and community, that we are always should see ourselves as in community with others. And I think we have to be so engaged at the local level because our very survival depends on it. And we have to see that those who we preach to, those who we journey alongside with, those who we are offering pastoral care and counseling to in this moment, we receive the bulk of the negative impact from like the current administration's policies, right? I think in terms of he operates in a Woodrow Wilson spirit. Mm-hmm. He may not be showing a screening of Birth of a Nation to recruit KKK, but he's certainly unleashing that power out into the streets and out upon, those who have their backs against the wall, if you will, as Thurman would say. So, his Afrophobic, homophobic, xenophobic tweets, et cetera, really impacts Black communities and minority communities the most. So we have to, as a church, be concerned about not only our congregation's well-being, but the community well-being also. So for us, what does it mean every day? What does that mean for us to get people connected and engaged with this 2020 election? Understand that it's not so much that we think one party or the other can give us the future we want, but it is this idea of we need to vote and be engaged because at least there is one candidate that will allow that process to unfold. We can continue to movement build, we can continue to press and push and have radical politics outside of that, but only one person is going to allow us to do that. Right. Yeah. So because we already see where the current administration is trying not to let that happen. So for us here at Friendship West, we do a number of things just on the ground where we're connected and engaged. One of the things we're doing as we anticipate headwinds, as we anticipate voter intimidation at the polls, we are actively recruiting people to work the polls. So it's one thing, we do voter registration for sure. We're out in the community doing voter registration because obviously we don't do it our normal way. So we post up where people are likely to go in and out, grocery stores, Targets, Walmarts, et cetera. So we're already in the community registering people to vote. We are making sure that we're now hoping to do in the coming weeks to do contactless voter registration by doing door hangers in areas that we can see where there's low voter registration as well as low census completion, because those two for us are both in, right? We also need to make sure we complete the census. And so we're trying to also say it's not just registering, not just turnout, but we need to be physically at the polls. We need election judges at the polls. We need poll clerks at the polls. And so we recruit folks and we do an education session for them to understand exactly here's what's required. Here's what you'll be paid. Here's the process. So by the time they contact Dallas County, Tarrant County, any other county, they're clear about, do I have the time to do this or in the capacity? right? Instead of just sending people out, we want to prep them first and then send them to Dallas County so that they can then be assigned, go through training and be assigned to a polling location. And as of today, all the Republican polling locations are fully staffed. And the Democratic Party are still looking for people to work the polls. Right. So we have to up our game. We have to make a commitment to show up and be at the polls. And so we do that. And we're getting ready to also work with a statewide organization to recruit poll monitors, those that will stay 100 feet back from the polling location and watch and see what's going on so they can report any kind of intimidation that may be taking place, as well as online. We'll have people who can poll monitor and, just monitor our social media site to see if you see anything being reported, or if you're seeing somebody filming something, whatever you can see that might need to be, reported, you can do that. So we're just trying to cover all the bases and give people different points of entry. So maybe you can monitor, maybe you can be a clerk, maybe you can be an election judge. And we're also extending that to our young people. So we're very intentional about also letting the 16-year-olds know you can get paid the day of election to work the poll. And it's a way of getting them starting to understand the election process, right? For them to be engaged and connected and see the importance of being engaged in the voting process.
So Ayers, what you're telling me is that you can get a check to make sure that our people don't get hoodwinked, bamboozled, and run them up as they go to the polls. That's what you're trying to tell me right now.
Right. So I think that's so important. That's so important. We know what happened last time here in Dallas County when all the Republican judges didn't show up at the polls, and what chaos that created, particularly for our precincts. So we have to be just as diligent, right, in terms of the opposition, in terms of how they are ready to go, because they are ready. And we have to be just as ready to understand the importance and the critical nature of this. And I know we always say this is the most important election. Our life depends on it, but this really does, right? This is a matter of life and death for some people, because if the healthcare is completely repealed, what does that mean for people who depend on that? So this is critical, and we have to be at every stage: voting, turnout, day of, early voting, working the polls, and monitoring that process. So we do that. And we also try to make sure we educate people as much as possible. And we don't get a lot of go out and get it first before we post it, but we make sure we have like a voting central where you can find, is it safe to go to the polls? Because if you saw Dallas Morning News, people are split on the safety of in-person voting. You have more Democrats who are more cautious about showing up in-person voting than you do independents and Republicans. What does that mean? Because the mail-in ballots hasn't been extended, right? There's no provision for that. So what does that mean? So we're trying to push out videos, content online to say, here are the measures that are taken from Dallas County in terms of safety voting with the plexiglass, everything being sanitized after each person, et cetera, and what you can do to protect yourself, and curbside voting, right? So we're trying to do all we can to ensure people what the safety measures are. So we produce videos for that. We produce videos around know your rights, right? Because you have some people telling people that if they have a felony, they can't vote, even if they're off paper, right? So we make sure people understand who can register to vote and who cannot register to vote, and what that process looks like. So in early voting dates, and making sure people know you can vote anywhere in the county. Of course, we're pressing that we are a super voting center. You can come here. I promise you, you won't get intimidated here. Like, we welcome all voters here. That won't go down here. So we try to make sure we just have videos constantly being produced and information where people can stay connected and engaged and fully informed. We have links to like the League of Women Voters, for example, which is nonpartisan, that will lay out amendments. What do they mean if you say yes or you say no? Where do the candidates stand? What are their platforms? So you can see, are you really voting based on what you believe, right? Or are you just voting on two issues and not getting hung up on two issues only and vote for someone, right? But how do you fully see, does they really have an anti-poverty platform? Do they really have a platform for your community survival, right? So we just try to make sure we do all the education we can that way.
So Reverend Ayers, let me hit you. I just want to, I want to ask this question, right? Because y'all here, she just laid out 167 different ways, right? For your congregation, your community, your fraternity, your sorority, your club, your crew, your clique, whoever, right? To get engaged and ensure that we can win this election and that our people are heard and counted. One of the things I want you to just give me a few minutes, right? Right before we transition, but give me a few minutes on just during this age of COVID, right? And knowing that we have all these things, just talk to me about like, what does it take? You know what I mean? Talk to some of the other people who are at churches, who may be on staff, who may be ministers who are trying to help their pastor, or trying to help their congregation. Just talk to us about what does it take to really be able to support and move your congregation forward. You know, we only got a couple months left. So what can people do and what does it take to really make it happen?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. I think we're all still trying to figure that out. We're all still making adjustments and figuring out what's the best way to stay connected and engaged. So for us, you know, it's definitely on Sundays, we try to take time out in worship service to speak to community updates. So if it's something you need to know, whether that's you won't be evicted, call this number. Or is your landlord doing this? Call this number, right? So for us, it's about a Sunday morning using time in that worship experience, because this is still a way of worshiping God, even with these community updates.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're talking about your body and your soul. So we want you to be really informed. So I think for us, it's about the connection of on Sundays, still giving updates, still informing people on what they need to know in this moment. As things change, as you know, what's true on Monday may not be true on Friday.
Right.
So what
you're saying is, like, I always say this, right? I say this to pastors all the time. Like, you have a captive audience, whether it's 2 or 20,000, right? Every week you got a captive audience. How are we using that space to make sure that we're talking about, you know, of course, our souls and all those things, but also our behinds, right? Our real lives. And so what you're saying is, you all consistently use use space on Sunday morning to make sure you're putting out the message and make sure people are hearing.
Right. And follow up with, so if I give an update on a Sunday, you can now go to the website and find this information. So we try to let information live well beyond a Sunday morning or well beyond an event we may do. With links, etc. And of course, you know, it's always how do we just keep pushing things out via social media. And for us, ministries, just staying connected. It's just all about connection, like how you're intentional about just calling, sending emails, having meetings still to keep people informed. So for the Justice Ministry, we're back to meeting our once a month this coming Saturday, but we've been meeting in between all summer. Right. And so people have like, well, this is too critical. This is too important. So that's how we have been able to keep a message out there, not just for the church, but for the community as well. So I don't want us to lose sight of, we shouldn't separate church from community.
Exactly. So look, Reverend Ayers, first of all, I'm going to say that was just the first time she gave us so much, y'all. I'm going to ask you, I know I'm putting you on Front Street, but I'm going to need you to come back. Okay. And we're going to have to continue these conversations in sections, because like you said, what's true, you know, on Sunday may not be true on Monday. And what we're working with today may change, you know, and will change as the weeks go on, as we move towards the election. So I'm going to need to bring you back so we can keep people informed on the movements that we're making on the church level and the community level and how we're getting engaged and all that. So thank you so much for your time, Reverend Ayers. And you all go to friendshipwest.org, check out their website, links, all those announcements, all that stuff is on the website. As a matter of fact, and make sure, like, Google Danielle Ayers. What's your book? What's the title of your book? Come on, plug yourself.
To serve this present age, social justice ministries in the Black church.
Absolutely. So if your church is trying to figure out how to do social justice ministry, there is a book, like one, and she's written it. And so pick up that book. If you're the pastor and you got some members that are really trying to figure it out, look, give them this book. Let them do it as a Bible study. This is how your ministry, because everybody needs someone. You're not going to have a Danielle Ayers because there's one, but everybody needs someone in your congregation that's going to be able to help you and push you. And guru right here. So thank you so much, Reverend Ayers. Anything else you want to leave with the people before we move on?
No, just stay in the fight and do self-care. Make sure you do a lot of self-care and tend to yourself in this moment. It's very important to stay ready for the fight.